Good evening. God bless you, and welcome to Covenant Church Wednesday in the Word. We thank you for joining us this evening. We're a little late getting started. We were having some technical difficulties with the computer, so I'm on my cell phone tonight. But we thank you for being with us. God bless you. As always, please comment and let us know that you are on and you are watching. We bring you greetings from Covenant Church. My name is Pastor Natascha Harried. And we're located in 800 Bissell, Madison, Illinois. And so we just welcome you to come and worship with us at any time. Our Sunday morning services begin at 11 a.m. And we are online Wednesdays for Bible study for Wednesday in the Word. And so we just welcome us. We travel through the Word of God. And as always, please comment. Just let us know that you're watching and that these broadcasts are being a blessing to you. God bless you, Sister King. So as I said, we a little late getting started. We were having some issues with the computer. And so I said, well, we're going to press on anyway. So I'm on my cell phone tonight, but we've been in the last few weeks. God bless you, Sister Loretta. God bless you. The last few weeks we have been, excuse me, in the book of Genesis, and we are going to continue our study in Genesis, our journey through the Bible 101. Many times we've heard isolated stories and incidents in the Bible, but we're reading them in context, reading them in order, and just so that they start to kind of all come together for us. And in the beginning, as we were starting this series, last year we did a whole series on lessons from the life of Joseph, and which was about a 6-week series. And we looked at different aspects of his life and how lessons that we could learn from Joseph. And so in the beginning, as we were starting this series, my plan was to kind of skip over Joseph's life since we had already covered it so extensively a few months prior. But I wanted to just kind of touch on some key concepts from Joseph, from the story of Joseph. And I think that it will look differently to us now, having studied Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we kind of see how all of it fits together. So we're going to start tonight in Genesis, the 37th chapter. Going to go Genesis 37, and then we're going to kind of skip ahead a little bit. So Genesis 37th chapter, and we're going to begin in the first verse. I am reading from the King James translation, but definitely whatever translation you're reading from, it should read similar. Genesis 37:1, it says, "And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan." So and Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. And so during our last Bible study, if you remember, we left off where Jacob and Esau reunited after Jacob had tricked his father, Jacob, and Jacob had tricked his father, and as he was on his deathbed, tricked him into getting the blessing that was due his brother Esau, in kind of cahoots with his mother Rebecca, and so they joined together to trick his father, Isaac. And so he gets the blessing. And so Esau is so angry with him, he leaves to go to where where Rebecca's brother Laban is. He finds a wife there. He falls in love with Rachel, and he is tricked on the wedding night by Laban. After working 7 years for Rachel, he's tricked into marrying Leah first. And so he has some children with Leah, works another 7 years, and eventually marries the one that he really wanted, which was Rachel. He takes on some other wives, and in the midst of the time, he decides that it's time to leave and it's time to go back to where he is from. So he goes back and he sends gifts ahead because he's still pretty fearful that Esau is going to be angry with him, but they do reunite. And so, they've now settled in this land. And so this is kind of where we are picking up the story. And so verse 2 says, these are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren. And the lad was with the sons of Bela and with the sons of Ziplah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now which was Israel was Jesus. Israel was Jacob's brother. Jacob's father. And so, Jacob is Israel. He's Joseph's father. You all pray for me this evening. And so Israel is Jacob. Oh, he was renamed Jacob. And this is Joseph's father. And he's with his father's other sons, which by his other wives. And when his brethren saw that their father loved, verse 3 says, now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his other brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. So it was quite evident that their father Israel loved Joseph more. He favored him more because he was the son of his old age. He was one of the youngest sons. He was the one that he had with the wife that he truly loved. And so, there was a bond there. And so there was this unfair favoritism that he was experiencing. And his brothers, saw it very clearly. And verse 5 says, and Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told his brethren, and they hated him yet the more, gave him even more reason to not be able to stand him. Because now he's dreaming dreams. Now he's a visionary. Now he's, seeing all of these things. And Joseph, and he said unto him, hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we are binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and they make obeisance to my sheaf. And the brethren said unto him, shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dream and for his words. So everything that he brought to them, everything that he said and did, they hated him even the more. And so, and we see all of these brethren, and we're going to skip down, because all of these things are happening, and, they're seeing the favoritism that Joseph has experienced. And so they are just, irate with him because they don't have their father's eye or their father's ear like Joseph does. And it says in the 18th verse, and when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. They wanted to kill him. 19 says, and they said one to another, behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit. And we will say, some evil beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. So let's see what he's going to dream now, because we got a dream for him. They devised a plan to kill him. They were going to say that an evil beast had devoured him. And 21 says, and Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them in 22, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. So I believe that his plan was to, have the brothers throw him in the pit. Don't kill him, throw him in the pit so that Reuben could possibly come back and rescue him and bring him back to their father. So, he was trying to help his brother. And I'm going to show you the connection and the dynamics with the brothers in just a second. And 23 says, and it came to pass when Joseph was when Joseph was coming to his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat, that lovely coat that their father gave him, and kind of made him a target for the brothers' hatred. They stripped him out of the coat and his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, and there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked up, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? We're not going to get any money from that. Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers were content. So here's another brother that's speaking out on his behalf, saying, he is our brother. And if we just kill him, we're not going to get any profit from that. What are we going to really gain? So let's not kill him, because after all, he is our flesh. He is our brother, so let's just sell him into slavery. I mean, I guess, they were trying to have some compassion, but, odd way of showing love, but okay. And so it says, 26, and Judah said unto his brother, 28, then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. So they sold him into slavery, sold him away from his land. And remember, in the beginning, I think it was the second verse told us that Joseph is only 17 at this time. I think that is important to remember. He is a young teenager being sold away from everything that he knows, his family, his friends, his language, familiar surroundings, all because his brothers hate him. And 29 says, and Reuben returned to the pit, because I guess Reuben is not with the brothers at this time, because remember, his plan was to come back and rescue Joseph. And 29 says, and Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. He was upset. He was horrified because his plan had fallen through. And he returned unto his brothers and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? Where is he? What happened to him? And he says, rightfully so, the child is not there. What happened to the child? Because he's a child. Sometimes in our mind, we think that all these biblical characters are, good and grown and adults, but he's a child. He's a 17-year-old boy. Because of the hatred that his brothers have, he's being subjected to all of this. And they took Joseph's coat and killed, and they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of goats and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this have we found. Now know whether it be thy son's coat or not. And he knew it and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him, and Joseph is without a doubt rent in pieces. So they killed a kid, a goat, and they smeared his blood all over Joseph's coat, and brought it to their father and said that this is, do you think this is your son's coat? And when he saw it, he just figured that he had been, attacked by a wild beast, and he was just torn into pieces, which is exactly what they wanted him to think. Your son is no more. We've got, he's out of the picture. And 34 says, and Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. 36, and the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. And so we see here, you know, he has been sold. And I want to show you this graphic of kind of the family tree of of Jacob, of Israel, because I think it will kind of lend some clarity to the dynamic. So we see that the sons of Bala, she has two sons, and they are Dan and the Leah's sons, and all of these sons that she has. And it, remember in verse the second verse, it says that Joseph was in the field with the sons of Bala and the sons of Ziplah, which is Dan and Gad and Asher. And then we have all of Leah's sons. The sons of Rachel are Joseph and Benjamin. Reuben is one of the sons of Leah, as well as Simeon, Levi, Judah. Judah is, the one that spoke up for him. He is one of the sons of Leah, Ishkar, Ziplah, and Dinah, the sister. And so we see, the dynamic, the sons of Reuben and Judah were speaking up on behalf of Joseph. Reuben is the son of Joseph, the one that Israel loved, the one that he held dear. And so, he had a special love for him. And so we kind of see, so I just kind of wanted you to see that dynamic of the family tree, so to speak. And so we know that even in blended families, we have to be so careful that we don't show favoritism, especially to this degree, to where there's so much hatred within the family. And so if you go back and really research Joseph's story between chapters 42, you see that he was, after being sold into slavery, he was in prison, he was falsely accused, then rescued from there, put in second command in Pharaoh's house. And so we see, we're going to pick up the story in chapter 42, Genesis 42, because at this time Joseph is in second command in the top ruler's house. There is a famine in the land of where, because remember, our land where he belongs, and he's now in Egypt. And so in the land where Israel and his brothers are, Joseph's homeland, there has been a famine. But God gave Joseph a dream and a way to interpret, the king's dream, to foretell and to let him know that there was going to be a famine that was coming. So there was 7 years of plenty, 7 years of good crops, and then 7 years of famine. So the 7 years of plenty, they stockpiled and they saved, and they were able to have. So when the 7 years of famine came, when other nations were scarce resources, because God had given him a strategy, Egypt was able to prosper and be a blessing and sell crops and grains to other nations. So this is what we're going to pick after you. Verse 1 says, "Now Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt. Jacob said unto his son, Why do ye look upon one another? They said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get down thither and buy for us thence, that may be and die." And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, and you remember from the family tree, Joseph and Benjamin were by Rachel. They were the younger sons. And Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob, sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. So he was holding this son close. So now that one of his favorite son was gone, he was holding on to Benjamin. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Canaan was where they were from, where Joseph was originally from. And verse 6 says, and Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was he that sold all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him, and their faces to the earth. This is the dream that Joseph saw so many years ago. This is the dream that they hated him for. This is the dream that made them plot for his death. And this same kid that they sold into slavery, this same kid that they wanted to kill, this same kid that they hated was the very one that they had to come back to, that God had now put in a high position to be able to save so many people, to have grain and corn that they were able to eat and not die. That same one was the one that they were coming back to. Glory to God. And so we see they were bowing down, and they had no idea who Joseph was at this time. The 7th verse says, and Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly with them. And he said unto them, whence cometh ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. So they had no idea who he was, but he very clearly remembered them. Because remember, like they probably remembered that 17-year-old kid that they hated. They didn't want to see him coming. All they could see was the father's love for him, and so they saw him probably stuck in time, but Joseph remembered, and you know how that is sometimes when people have done you wrong, they have lied on you, they've hurt you, they've abused you, they've molested you, whatever the case might be, you remember. They might not remember what they did. They may not remember your face. They may not acknowledge it, but you very clearly remember every detail. And this is Joseph. He remembers it. In verse 9 says, and Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed of them, and said unto them, ye are spies to the nakedness of the land. Ye come. And they said unto him, nay, my Lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. So he was began to accuse them of being spies. He was trying to, really dealing roughly with them, talking and trying to see where they were coming from. What were they like? And 13, and so they said, we're all one man's sons. We just come down here, to buy food so that we don't die and perish in our land. And so 13 says, and they said, thy servants are 12 brethren, that the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. It is not. And said unto them, that is that I spake of you, you are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved by the life of Pharaoh. Ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. And so this was one of the ways that he was going to be able to see his brother, see his family, and kind of be reunited, and also test them and see what was going on with them, and so if we skip down to 24, of the same chapter, verse 24, and it says, and he turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again, and communed with them, and took from them Simeon, and bound them before his eyes. So he was the one that was going to, that was bound up. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore. So he was going to let them go and restore every man's money into a sack, and to give them provision for the way. And thus did he unto them. And so he sent them away, but he kept Simeon. And so, and he said that he wanted to, they had to bring back his younger brother, which was Benjamin. And so this was all a test for them. This was all, kind of trying to feel them out and to see where they were. Chapter 43, they're trying, they're persuading their father. The brothers go back and they're persuading their father to allow Benjamin to come. Now he has already lost a son, he believes. And so he is hesitant to let Benjamin go, but he finally is persuaded to go, to let him go. And then, they go through 44, they take him back, you know, Joseph has a silver cup put into Benjamin's sack. He's still testing them. He's still testing the waters, still taking them through some kind of examination, because he wants to see, have they changed? Are they still the evil men that put him down in that pit or not? Are they, how are they treating his brother? So he's looking at all of these different things. And the 45th chapter is where we want to go to. And it says, then Joseph, chapter 45, verse 1. And it says, then Joseph could not refrain himself before all of them and stood by him. And he cried, cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him while Joseph made himself known unto his brothers. So he cleared the room. He said, we need the room. We need to talk. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said unto his brother, I am Joseph. Does thy father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence, because now he has made himself known. He said, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? And they were afraid, because remember, Joseph has this high ranking position. He is in a position of power and authority. And so if this is our brother, the one that we hated, the one that we tried to kill, I mean, what could he do to us at this point? He could do, damage to us. And the 4th verse says, and Joseph said unto his brethren, come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Now, therefore, be not grieved. He understood that they were afraid, nor angry with yourselves, that you sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life. And the perspective that Joseph has, that God sent me ahead, to preserve the life of so many, to be an instrument to be used. He was not bitter. He was not angry. He did test his brothers, and he was trying to see what was going on, where they were coming from, had they changed any, but he said, don't be angry with yourselves, because God sent me before you to preserve life. God sent me ahead, and gave me a vision. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there have been 5 years in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God, and he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and the Lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. And so he said, it wasn't you that sent me. It wasn't you that, that did me harm. You were only instruments and vessels to get me to where God had me. And so, had for me to go. And my steps are ordered by the Lord. And so you were just being used, you were just an instrument to get me to where God had for me. And so, just the lessons. And so, like I said, we studied that Bible study on last year, the lessons from the life of Joseph, the integrity that he carried himself with, even when he was falsely accused. And here in this moment, he could have been angry and spiteful with his brothers. He could have put them in prison. He could have, had them, killed. But he said, God sent me ahead. It wasn't you, but it was God. God was using you, and God gets the glory, and so we see that, if we skip down to verse 24 of this same chapter, verse 24 says, so he sent his brothers away, and they departed and said unto them, see that ye fall not out of the way. And they went up out of Egypt and came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father, and told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he believed them not. And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, because when they went back, he told them to bring my father to Egypt, and you will move all of your family here, come here where I am, because God has sent me and placed me in this position to be a blessing to all of us. And so he was like, go get my father and you all move here. And when he saw the wagons and the chariots that Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob, their father, revived. And Israel said, it is enough. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die. And so we see in chapter 46 that they moved to Egypt. And 46 and 28, we hit that real quick. Chapter 46 and 28. And it says, and he sent Judah before him unto Joseph to direct his face to Goshen. And they went, and they came into the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to meet Israel, his father, to Goshen, and presented himself unto him. And he fell on his neck and wept on his face a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren, unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and said unto him, my brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. So I'm going to let Pharaoh know that my brothers and my father and all of my family is coming to be with me. And so we see how Jacob, now comes, Israel comes to Egypt to be with Joseph, and his brothers come to be with Joseph, and they're all here, and God uses Joseph. 47 and 48 and 49, we see at the close of the book of Genesis, we see the death of Jacob, and we see how he is buried in, they take him back to Canaan, and he is buried. Chapter 50, as we close, chapter 50 and 24, it goes through all the lineage of Joseph and everything. And we see chapter 50, verse 24, as we close quickly. It says, and Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land and unto the land which he sware unto Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath out of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry my bones from hence. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. And so, we see the close of the book of Genesis, that Israel, Jacob has passed. And now at the end, Jacob, which has become a prominent leader in this family, has now passed. And he said that he had an oath, and he said that God will deliver us out of this land, and he will bring us to the land which God swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. It goes back to those covenants that we covered earlier in the book of Genesis. And he said that, carry my bones with you, take me with you. Don't leave me in Egypt, but take me with you to that promised land. And so, he was embalmed in Egypt, only to, when God delivers his people, to be carried to to the promised land. So we see that we are closing out the book of Genesis, and it's been just a wonderful study in the book of Genesis. And so we thank you for joining us tonight. God bless you. And it's our hope and prayer that you have been blessed by our study on tonight. And we thank God for just starting off the year in the book of Genesis and journeying through the Bible. God bless you. We invite you to join us Sunday morning at 11 a.m. for our Sunday morning worship experience. Thank you for joining us tonight. Be blessed. God bless you.